Should I do it this time?
Sure, we'll take turns.
Okay. All right. Hi and welcome to Backstreet's Back, whatever, Backstreet Boys podcast. This is episode number 3.
Part 2.
Right, which is also a part 2 from episode 2, which is a part 1. Yeah, sorry, that's very confusing.
If we stumped you yet,
Right,
keep listening, it gets better.
So this is the second part of us talking about the Backstreet Boys cruises, or at least just the one that Taylor was on. Oh wait, I forgot to say I'm Jacob. So yes, so I'm Jacob.
I'm Taylor.
We are the co-host of the show. So last time we started talking about the first couple of days and stuff that happened during Taylor's adventures on the Backstreet Boys European cruise from 2016.
Yeah.
But if you listen to that episode, obviously we didn't get to cover everything because there's a lot. So this episode we're gonna pick back up from it. But before we begin, we meant to do this on the first episode, but we forgot. So I want to do it now. So if you've heard our episodes, you'll notice that we have some theme music and break music and outro music, which is the same as the intro. I would just want to give credit to Kylo Kaz. We went on a website that was like a free music sharing website for whoever wanted to use whatever audio was or music was uploaded. So we found his. We really liked it. We thought it fit really well and made our stuff sound like NPR. So we used it. So yeah. So thank you, Kylo Kaz. That is the music that you hear at the beginning, end, and in between everything on this podcast. So thank you. And then Taylor has some other people that she would like to mention, so I'm going to hand it off to her.
Cool. Yeah. So first and foremost, so now we're at episode 3, and we were so excited when we did episode 2 and we had 30-something listeners. And now with episode, I think the first episode only out at this time, we are up to 66. So thank you guys for all of your support. And I know that there's been a couple people we just wanted to give some shout outs to, some like really cool fans that have been dedicated and liking all of our posts and giving us comments and kudos, and some personal friends too. So on Facebook, there is a fan, Kadia R., who is always liking our stuff, so big shout out to her. On Instagram, we have a fellow fan, Anna Delfina 1994, Obscure Backstreet, shout out to those people. And then on Instagram as well as Twitter, we have another follower, Jackie, who is really awesome and participated in our Q&A today that we did. And she is, I'm finding her Twitter handle. She has some friends that do a NKO, I was going to say NKO GBSB, but a New Kids on the Block podcast. And it's also a 80s, 90s podcast called My So-Called Whatever Podcast. So if you're into 80s, 90s music podcast and that type of genre, check them out. They got a lot of episodes on there for you to jump in and listen to. So Jackie, big shout out to you as well. And then just some of our friends and fans who've been really awesome. Shout out to Carrie and Anna and Natalie who've been listening, and Julie from all of our episodes, or the one that they've listened to, and have been very responsive with all their feedback. So thank you to all of you guys, and please continue to spread the word about our podcast, share it, give us feedback, ask us tons of questions. We love all of your input. So that's all I've got, Jacob.
So thank you to everybody who's been following our pages, following us on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, Twitter. Thanks for everybody's feedback. Thanks for everybody's support. It really means a lot to us. Yeah. So, one thing I wanted to touch on was, so last time, or on the last episode, we were talking about, well, obviously we were talking about the cruise, but one of the things that came up was Taylor had mentioned an altercation with a fan, and we actually are recording this after editing that last episode, and I made sure to take note to see if we had if that story had concluded during that podcast, which it hadn't. It was just mentioned. So Taylor, would you like to tell us what that altercation with the fan? I think you just mentioned that it happened, and then I think we started to get into some other stuff, so we weren't able to pick up on it. So Taylor, you just want to tell us just everything about that?
Yeah. So I know we got a little distracted last episode, but I did mention that I think on the third night of our cruise, I got into an altercation with the fan. So just to give you just a brief backstory, I should say the setting of this cruise is not meant for someone who is going to sleep and relax. Like, that's just the tone of that. It's one big party, 4 days in a row, and that's where that's at.
Sorry, I have a question. Since you brought that up, I mean, I feel like that's an obvious, but was there anybody that actually did that?
Sleep and relax?
Yeah. I mean, well, okay, so so you went with a friend, and we'll touch on this later. You went with a friend, but she was in the Backstreet Boys. Was there anybody that had brought a friend who was just there for moral support but really didn't care?
I didn't meet any of those people, so if there was, I didn't know about it. But what happened? There were some people who, if they did the cruise and the days that you got to go on land to visit France or Italy, some of those people stayed behind and slept all day on the cruise. So there's a couple girls we met that were like, oh, we always go to France, so we just stayed and lounged by the pool all day and rest up for the after parties in the evening. So we didn't do that because obviously we'd never been to France before, and my friend never went to Italy before. So of course, like, if we're going there, we're going to see those places. So we, woke up as soon as we docked that country and went to go visit. So mind you, so just to give you a snippet of how that day looked. So 7 a.m. we arrive at the country. We get up at 7. We go tour the country for the day. We're running around all over the place, visiting sites and things like that. We have to get back by the boat by 5 because then the boat will dock at that point. And then every evening there's dinner at 6 or 7. There's an activity around 7 or 8, and then there's an after party that starts at 11. But it doesn't really start at 11 because there's this thing called Backstreet Time. And Backstreet Time, it's a thing. It's a real fucking thing. And how it works is that a event will start at 11 that they are supposed to appear at for this after party. And then 11 till ? They might show up. Some nights it didn't start until 1. Some nights it didn't start till midnight. So whatever their after party is, whether it's outside or indoors if it was raining mostly, then you're waiting indoors in this lobby area of wherever this after party is assigned for at least an hour while the DJ's playing some music. You don't know when they're coming out, and you can't move from your spot because the second you move, someone will take it, and you've planned. It's like basically if you're waiting for tickets that are going on sale and you've brought your tent and your chair and you're not going anywhere until the tickets start selling. That is literally every night at this after party. So at least what I will give them credit for is that they would party until 4 or 5 in the morning with you.
Sure.
So
Can I just say something? something?
Yeah.
So Backstreet Time, so that just means that you're not really sure when it's going to happen.
That's right.
So that's that existed before the Backstreet Boys.
The Backstreet Boys invented it.
Well,
and it's real.
I think it started with punk shows, and it was called Punk Time.
Was it really?
Yeah. Well, I remember like even when I was a kid, like you've seen flyers for like hardcore and punk shows,
Mm-hmm.
and it would say, how like where it was at, which usually wouldn't put the address. It would just say the name of the venue, which you'd have to know what the cover was if there was one, and then the time, which sometimes would just say Punk Time, which means show up by at least 11. But yeah, Punk Time. That's really what it is. Punk Time.
So are the Backstreet Boys punk then?
No, that's not what I was saying.
It sounded kind of like that's what you were saying.
It's not at all what
I
was
think
saying.
that was kind of a similar comparison. I
All right.
don't see any differences there.
Well, we can choose to disagree, but also choose to agree that I'm right.
No. I think I said it, and then you're like, this makes me think of punk, so therefore I think I was right, and the Backstreet Boys are punk, and you just don't want to admit that openly, and that's okay.
That's like saying that. That's like saying, okay, One Direction is a boy band, so that must mean that because I had never heard of any other boy band before, One Direction is the first boy band. Would you say that One Direction is the first boy band?
I would not say that.
Yeah. So Backstreet Time is actually just Punk Time.
Because they're kind of punk.
Oh my God. We're going to edit all of this out.
Oh, we're not. It's going to be great. We'll pull it later. We'll see what people say. Yeah, so up until now, as we're coming to day 3, it's been 3 nights of lack of sleep, touring around parts of Europe, some excessive drinking, lack of sleep again, and also jet lag, obviously. So there's some irritation. So because usually the after parties are outdoors in the boat deck, but half of our trip it was raining, so the after parties had to get moved inside, which was a fucking nightmare to say the least. Because what made it impossible was that the after parties on the boat outside can fit 1,000 people. The after party inside the boat cannot really fit 1,000 people into a room. So what they decided by night 3 when it was raining was, we're going to take each 5 of the boys, we're going to designate them into a room. We're not telling you what room they're going to. So you can decide whatever room you go to, and then you'll be surprised by whoever shows up there, is basically how that happened. So my friend and I went upstairs to this VIP in the top level party room, and they're setting up the ropes, and it's empty at this point because we got there, I'd say probably around 8 o'clock, and we're just sitting having some drinks, having a good time. And come 10:30, it starts filling up really quickly, and then 11:30 is when they all start going to these rooms. So it's basically, my friend is sitting down in a chair, there's velvet rope around her, and I'm standing next to her also in this roped area. So in theory, nobody should be trampling this space because it's roped off and it's secure for the most part. So all the fans start filling up the room, and there's these girls right outside the velvet rope area. We have a table, we have chairs, it's a spot that people shouldn't be trampling on, and all of a sudden, the person that's coming up to this room is Nick, and people lose their shit. I mean, it's like the Gators with the marshmallow chicken, whatever analogy. It's just like that. And he decided to come by where we were standing. So these girls start hounding around us, and it really felt like hyenas were surrounding us because they didn't give a fuck where we were sitting or if we were even there. They could care less because Nick was right by us. And so at this point, my friend is sitting down and she is not standing up. I am at this point definitely drunk and definitely drunk. And I get, when it comes to my friends in general, if there is anybody who I feel harms, threatens, or is mean to my friends, I don't tolerate that, and I especially don't tolerate it when I'm drinking. So at this point, the girls are now blocking my friend. They are standing in front of her. Some of them are literally leaning on top of her. It's like she doesn't even exist. And they have all, like, almost are climbing over her. So I turned to this one girl, and I was like, you need to back the fuck up off my friend right now because you're pissing me off. And and I don't care that even before like this happened, it was very much like these girls wanted to get selfies. I felt like when I was on the boat, we were all playing a game of Pokemon Go, and we're all like, sure. I gotta get a selfie with AJ in a jersey, and then I gotta get a selfie of Brian with a sports uniform on, because there was themes every night. So they had to, like, it felt like I have to collect all these selfies with them and get all this stuff. And I understand when you're there, you want to make the most of it. But at the same time, when you are being rude or disrespectful to someone else, at what point does that really matter if you need to get what you need to get at that point? And so when these girls some of them were stomping over my friend and getting in her face and not acknowledging that she was a human being because they had to get that selfie with Nick in a white tux, it just made me have a little bit loss of respect for what we were doing there at that moment in time, because I'm like, you are not even thinking about anybody here as a person. You are thinking that this is a collector's item, and I don't respect you. Like, that is how I felt at that moment. So I turned to this girl and I got in her face and I told her to back up. And then she's like, we could do whatever we want to do if we could take a picture with Nick. And I was like, you are thirsty as hell, is what I said to her. I was like, you need to back up because this is obnoxious. It's just a picture with Nick. You probably already have 20 pictures with Nick and you're acting like a psycho. And she was not getting out of my face. And I was like, no, listen, bitch, get out of my face right now because I will punch you in your fucking face. And get up off my friend. I'm very serious. And she just like kind of stared at me. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say this right now. She looked like the girl from Dream that accused Nick of assault. So I already, like, as I picture her in my mind, I'm like picturing this girl from Dream. I'm like, no, I really don't like you. And now you make me angry. But anyway, I digress. And if this girl ever hears this podcast, it should be like, I don't look like her. And I never said that. Who knows? We'll find out one day. But, or not. So then that happened. And she, at this point, like, I'm starting to get really, really red. And I'm like, I told my friend Jamie, I'm like, we can't stay here. Like, I can't stay in this room because now I'm feeling anxiety. I'm getting in her face. These girls are toppling over you. Like, this is not even fun. I'm not having fun, and we can't do this. And she's like, no, let's go. Let's just get out of here. And so I get up, and so I was already standing, but I'm moving forward. So this girl thought that I was coming in on her, and she's like, I told you we're not going to be over your friend. I just told you that. I was like, no, I'm not even like saying anything to you. I wasn't going to hit you. I'm just saying you need to move now so I can leave this room. And they wouldn't move to let you out. And I'm like, no, you need to move. I'm having anxiety and I will actually hit you. Please get out of my way at this point. So now, like, they've tried to part ways so they would let us go. And I get to my room at this point and I'm crying hysterically because I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm tired and I'm drunk and these girls are insane. And I'm like, and I miss my cats. And I just like so like emotional at this point. And then my friend Jamie was like, it's okay. Let's just stay in the room tonight. So then that was how night 3 ended of the 4-night cruise.
Wow.
That's my story.
Wow. This podcast has become really dark really fast. Tune in next week where we look at the toll that being a Backstreet Boys fan takes on the human psyche. All right, and we're back. After that extremely grim story, I don't even want to edit this episode. I don't want to listen to that story again. That was rough. Maybe. This this is not what I expected when I signed up for Backstreet Boys podcast. I thought it was going to be fun and silly and maybe some in-depth, touching personal stuff, but nothing like this. Nothing like this. So I guess, Taylor, from what we can take already from this part of the cruise episode, which is a lot less lighthearted than our first part, I guess what we can take is that, so you've seen some shit? Is that it?
You know what? Night 3 was the worst moment, but that wasn't the whole emphasis of the cruise. That was just the worst moment, because you asked me about the fan altercation, so I'm telling you about it. Nights 2 and 4 were a total success, and they were great.
Yeah.
So it was just that night when you have, again, I just want to emphasize, lots of drunk girls, sleep deprived, partying 3 days in a row at this point does not make for a success. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
Some stressful times.
Yeah. Please don't ask me to go to one of these ever.
Just don't go to the after parties, that's all. Everything else was totally organized and fine, but those after parties are stressful as shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
That's why I said it was hell and it was wonderful all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think by day 4, if I could just, I had a very embarrassing moment happen at day 4. So we're getting, day 4 in the morning.
I'm trying to think of what a Backstreet Boys hell would be like. Would that be like, so you're stuck in hell and the Backstreet Boys are performing, but it's actually in sync?
That could be it. That could be it. I think
you paid Backstreet Boys price.
I did.
And you set your watch to Backstreet time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think Backstreet Boys hell is when you're on the boat with them and you know you're going to be with them, and yet all of these people keep getting in your way of what you were trying to accomplish when you're trying to get on the goddamn boat. That's hell. That is hell right there. Because you're like, God damn it. Everybody's trying to do this. You know what it is? It's The Bachelor. It is The Bachelor on a boat. That is what that is. Because it's like 5 guys and then...
Five Guys, good restaurant. Sorry. I just had to plug that. 5 Guys, good restaurant. Okay, sorry. It's 5 guys and what?
5 guys on a boat, 1,000 women, only 5 can give you roses, and then you gotta fight off with all the other girls to get your damn rose.
Is rose code for something else?
No, it's not.
Actual roses?
Yes. On The
Ooh.
Bachelor, anyway.
This really sounds like a nightmare. Oh, is that a thing on The Bachelor?
Yeah, The Bachelor. The Bachelor gives a rose to whoever he proposes to. I don't. Let me also say I don't watch The Bachelor, and I hate it. And I think the premise is horrible. But when I think of this experience, I think of The Bachelor because all of these women want to get to that guy, and that guy is surrounded by all these women, and it's a jungle. It's a jungle in there.
So you'd do it again in a heartbeat?
I probably would.
Yeah. You know what? You've been swearing a lot on this episode. I think that that altercation story really got you riled up.
It really did.
But you know what? I'm surprised that you're not still on the boat because you curse like a sailor.
Do I really? Probably. That sounds true.
Sorry.
You're not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not really. Sorry.
No, so day 4, so the night after, or the morning after this stressful altercation, we all have to get in line to take a group shot with the Backstreet Boys, and they're like, you get like these professional photos that you could take with them, and you get to meet them. So if for any reason you haven't been able to meet them after 4 days of this cruise, this is your formal opportunity to get to meet them and take this photo. So I am a tad bit hungover,
Sure.
A little cranky.
What were you drinking?
I was drinking Sex on the Beach. I thought it was cute and funny because we were on a boat.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's no beaches on a boat, though.
But it was like island tropical theme. So I thought I was being themey. And I didn't know boat drinks other than that one.
What do the pirates drink? Rum.
That's true.
You could have just, got a jug of rum with an eye patch.
I couldn't.
Maybe just sprinkle a little bit of scurvy on yourself.
I could have, and I didn't think about that. Maybe the scurvy would have landed me closer to meeting them. Maybe. Yeah. So I'm a tad bit hungover and cranky, more sleep deprived than I was as of night 3, and we all are waiting in line to take these photos with the guys. So we are in line for probably an hour and a half at this point, and we finally get up to them, and the first person I see is Brian, and I get up and he shakes my hand and he's like, "Are you having a great time on the cruise?" And then I said, "I bet you are so glad that this cruise is almost over," is what I said. And the look of shock on his face was enough to speak volumes, because at first he looked like he was going to agree, and then he took in what I said, and he's like, "No, we're doing this for you guys." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm sure you're probably glad this is almost over," because I couldn't stop putting my foot in my mouth at this point, because I'm like, "I've had it, you must have it too, because if I'm done, you must want to be done as well."
Sure.
And then he looked mortified that I said that. And then I'm like, "Okay, bye." And then I just scurried on and shook hands with everyone else and shut my mouth, because I'm like, "Oh my God.
Maybe
I can't believe I said that."
Maybe he was mortified because what you said about it being almost over hit home with him. So he was like, "Oh, damn, I'm going to have to go home soon to see my wife and kids, and that sounds like a nightmare."
No, his wife was with him on the boat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does he have kids?
He has a son, yeah, who's 16.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Being 16 and your dad's a Backstreet Boy, that sounds like a nightmare.
No, I think he's enjoying it, because he has a nice little, I think he's trying to do a music career right now. And
he's one of those child leeches. He tries to leech off the success of their parents.
Yeah,
he's probably not making anything on the same scale as Will Smith.
No, I think he's right now he's in the beginning stages of making music. I know that, so I follow him I follow his son Bailey, his
Ooh,
wife Leanne, and
that is creepy. Like you hide in the bushes?
no, I follow them on Instagram.
Oh, didn't say that.
That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, well, you didn't say that, so
Okay,
it just sounded
I
like...
follow Bailey and Leanne on Instagram.
There you go.
And he was doing Broadway, like off-Broadway plays for a while.
Oh, okay.
For the last couple years, and now
Nice.
he's in the recording studio doing his own music.
Cool.
So I don't know what any of that sounds like, but he's in the beginning stages of doing that. But it's crazy to think that Brian has a 16 or 15-year-old son. His wife actually, they met on the video set of As Long as You Love Me. So she's one of the girls in that video, and that's where they met.
In the chair one with the jeans and the black shirts?
That's right.
Ooh.
She's the one with the long blonde hair. I'll have to show you after this podcast, and that's where they met.
Oh.
And then she makes a cameo appearance in their music video, I'll Never Break Your Heart, but they already dated. They're already dating at this time.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long were they dating? Maybe we should just save this for the Brian episode.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'd like to touch on that.
Okay.
So let's step back.
Back to the cruise.
So I think
moment.
I think right before we went off on a tangent, thanks to yours truly. Brian was
embarrassed, as was I.
Was affected by your comment about the cruise being almost over.
That's right.
And then what?
Then I just shut my mouth and then shook the rest of their hands and took a picture in between Kevin and Nick, and then I never spoke of it again because, that was kind of it. And, of course I told Jamie, I'm like, I think I just had my most embarrassing moment happen right now.
Do you think they, do you think they have nightmares about you? Where they wake up in, cold sweats? Because they just saw the face of that woman on the Backstreet Boys cruise who was drinking rum from a jug with a pirate
with an
eye patch with scurvy sprinkled all over her.
Dear God. I thought that, so I met them one more time after the cruise had ended, and I was mortified because every time I meet them, people are always like, oh, do you think they remember you? And they never do, which is disappointing in itself. But this was the one time, I'll tell you, where I was like, I really hope that Brian doesn't remember me, and he does not remember that question that I asked him, because that would be great if he could not. And so we were in Vegas and we did a meet and greet. And of course, Brian was the first person to come up to me. And most of the time he is. And in my head, I was like, I feel like he knows who I am. And he's just fucking with me at this point. But he'll never tell me. That's what the fear that I have in the back of my head. So I said... so he was like, oh, is this your first time, at the Vegas show? And I'm like, no, yes, it's my first time here. And it was. And then he was really nice, and he gave me a hug. And then I was like, yes, let's not pretend that happened on the cruise, Brian. Yes. So that is, hopefully he doesn't know, and they don't have nightmares of the only drunk girl, I'm sure, on that cruise, who did not have the best time.
I wonder. Maybe I shouldn't even say this.
You could always edit it out.
Okay.
What are you laughing at? The thing you haven't said yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're back. I'm going to ask my terrible, terrible question.
All right.
Or I guess it's more of a thought. So do you think when the Backstreet Boys are on these cruises are at these big events and they look out onto the crowd, do you think they see, audience of, mostly women and some men? Or do you think they just see bags of money?
Oh my God. I don't think they see bags of money. Okay. I think they actually see people.
People made out of money. And you and it's not like I don't have a favorite one, like one of my favorite bands that doesn't do cruises also that seem probably like they're extremely expensive. 311 does a cruise. They do cruises probably like once every 2 years or whenever they get around to it.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's really expensive. I feel like if I could afford it, I definitely would go. But yeah, I mean, 311 has their own island.
Oh, that's right. I have heard about that.
Do the Backstreet Boys have their own island?
No, but they should.
Yeah, so bags of money.
Yeah, that would definitely apply to 311, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm
sure. Although, you know what? Here's the thing. I feel like knowing, I don't know them personally, but I feel like knowing their music and, I've seen them live several times. But I feel like knowing 311 and their personalities, they just seem like really nice guys who love their fans, which is exactly the same thing as the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
So maybe this these events do bring them money, but it seems like they genuinely, and I'm talking about both groups right now.
Yeah.
But it seems like they do genuinely really appreciate their fan base, and they want to give. And yeah, I mean, I think you said the Backstreet Boys cruise is $1,000. That seems like a good deal.
Yeah. It is a good deal. And there's actually two things that you made me think of. One was when you're talking about the 311 cruise, there was someone that I was dating at the time, and we our song was 311's love song. That was our thing. And I heard about the 311 cruise, and this was actually before I ever went on the Backstreet Boys cruise. And I was going to surprise him with the cruise to 311 because that was our thing, but then we broke up, so that never happened. So luckily did not spend my money on that. I mean, I would have gone. I would have enjoyed myself.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
It would have been fun. But there's that.
Here's the thing. 311 has a video. I can't remember. I think it's... I'm not going to say it because I'll forget it. But it's like an advertisement for their cruise, their last cruise, and then for the upcoming cruise. And everybody there... I feel like in the video, I wouldn't get along with.
Why would you think you wouldn't get along with them?
They just seem really either stereotypical yuppie or bro-y or white or
just white.
Or white as in somebody that listens to Fish, but instead of Fish it's 311.
Well, when I was on the cruise, I was talking to one of the people who worked there for Rose Tours. That's who does the cruises with the Backstreet Boys. And I was asking them, I was like, what do you think about all of this? How is this? And he's like, oh my God, it's so crazy. But he said to me, and I apologize for who I'm going to reference in a little bit, but he said to me, he's like, I'll tell you though, he's like, this is so crazy, but these guys are so nice. And not only are they nice to their fans, but they're nice to the people who work there as well. And I think that's really important. And he was saying, and he's like, there's other groups that do these cruises, like New Kids on the Block, and they were not as nice to the people who work there as the Backstreet Boys were. And again, no disrespect to New Kids or anything like that, but that's what he said to me. And I think that's important because when Nick was doing, he was doing Dancing with the Stars a couple years ago, And I remember when every time that they would do a dance or whatever that was, he would always thank every single person who worked on the show. He would always be like, thank you to the crew and to the dancers and the judges and blah, blah, blah. And I think that that really says a lot about people's character.
Sure.
Because if you don't appreciate the people who do the actual work to make what you do look easy, then you don't have that kind of humility. And I think that humility is not something that can always be taught, especially with that kind of fame and success that they've had. So I just think that's important to mention that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who is his dance partner?
Oh my God, I'm gonna Sharna. Sharna, she had the red
What's
hair.
What's a Sharna?
Her name is, oh my God, I gotta look her up on Instagram because I'm gonna feel bad that I don't know her name.
Well, what is she from?
From
Wait, I
Dancing
thought you
with the
said her
Stars.
name was Sharna.
Her name is Sharna from Dancing with the Stars.
But what is she from?
What do you mean, where is she from? Oh, where is she from?
Okay, so Nick is from the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, no.
Where is Sharna from?
She's just a professional dancer. So, like, how Dancing with the Stars works is that there's a celebrity paired with a professional dancer. So, Sharna
really?
Burgess, I think is her name, is the professional dancer.
Oh, I always thought they paired up two random celebrities.
No, they pair the celebrity up with a professional dancer, and the professional dancer like teaches that celebrity how to dance, basically.
Okay.
So so she was partnered with Nick, and he made it all the way up to second place of the competition.
Oh, who won?
Bindi, the girl from the Crocodile Hunter's Daughter.
Oh,
She won. I mean, she's so sweet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was that the same season that Steve-O was on it?
No.
Oh, then
No,
I probably
no.
won't watch it. Okay. Sorry. Just being
That's fine.
honest.
That's fair. We're nothing but truthful in this podcast.
Right. We can be as truthful as we want because we'll edit it out later.
It's true. Let's edit all the offensive stuff out later. So that was this embarrassing moment on day 4 and the altercation on day 3. So those were the lows, but we'll definitely bring up more highlights in our third and final part of our podcast for sure.
Oh, you think we need to do a third part?
We did say there was going to be 3 parts.
Right. 3 parts.
And then we don't have to go over an hour as much.
Okay, so I want to jump back on a couple of things.
Okay.
So on the earlier you mentioned like 1,000 women and 5 guys. Good restaurant. 5 guys.
Please sponsor our podcast, please, and give us fries.
And each one had a rose.
No, they didn't. Have,
Oh, it was like that.
Yeah, it was an analogy
Oh.
of The Bachelor. Yes, they
Gotcha.
didn't have actual roses. The Bachelor on the TV show does have an actual rose. Mine was just metaphorical.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I was really confused about that.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, that's my own thing. I should know about The Bachelor, shouldn't I?
No, you shouldn't, because
Okay.
it's garbage.
Well, I don't. Yeah, and then we talked about the cost. Or did you want to get a little bit more into it? So,
Yeah.
$1,000 for this.
Yeah, so it
thing.
all depends on where your room is on the boat. So, like, my friend and I, we did, like, the bottom, like, lower level of the boat where, like, our room is just fine. Like, it's adequate. Because, obviously, like, we're not going to spend our time in this room. So as long as the bed is a clean place where I could sleep, like, that's all I need.
Sure.
So I think it was like $1,200 for our room. And again, that covers like all of your meals. So it's 4 nights with all your meals covered, on this boat. And the only thing that you have to pay outside is, whatever you decide to do when you visit the countries when you're making your stops. Drinks, if you want to buy drinks, it's like $5 or $6 for wine, like maybe $4 for beer. And any souvenirs. So say like you don't pay for that extra stuff. It's like $1,200 to do like the bottom tier of the room, and then it cost $900 to fly round trip to Europe, which I thought was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So we spent like between 2,000 to 3,000. I would say 3,000 was probably the most we spent. But you're thinking that that's including drinks, that's including what we did in Italy and France when we landed, that is including Barcelona and when the room that we spent when we stayed in Barcelona when we were done with the cruise, because we spent the weekend in Barcelona after the cruise had ended to definitely recover. And so I would probably say, less than $3,000 was what was spent on that, and I do think that it was worth it, all things considered, because like the experience, I mean, it was definitely one of the craziest experiences I've ever had.
Sure, and it was one of the things that made this happen.
That's right.
So yeah, once our followers start sending us money, we can stop after we hit 3,000, right?
There you go.
So I got a question.
Okay.
So we were talking about drinks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think my brain just chimed in when I heard the word drink.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So AJ, we know, doesn't drink.
Yeah.
But let's go down the list for everybody else.
Okay.
Kevin, what is his favorite drink? Or if Kevin... Okay, no, let's do this. Okay. Yes. Kevin, what does he like to drink? Do you know?
Can I guess what I think they drink? Because I don't know what they actually drink. I feel like Kevin would be...
Any of them?
Yeah. I don't know what any of them
Not
drink.
even Brian? I thought you said you follow them.
Well, first of all, I don't see Brian doesn't label the drinks that he has when he has them. Even on the cruise, we had no idea what they were drinking. We were assuming it was beer, but I could guess what like each of their drinks are.
Okay.
Or
yes.
Well,
all right. So what kind of drink do you think Kevin drinks? Well, Kevin likes football, so he probably likes Bud Light.
I was thinking an old fashioned. I feel like he would be an old fashioned if he was a drink.
An old fashioned with Bud Light.
Sure.
Okay, so now we'll go to Howie.
Mai Tai.
Oh, why do you say that?
Because I think that he is a tropical guy that likes to have like a fruity drink, laid back, super fun. Mai Tai.
Cool. And then his beer version would be Limerita.
Ooh, yeah.
Now let's do Nick.
Oh, Nick. I'm going to say tequila shots.
Nick is tequila shots.
He is. I say that because he had a song on his solo album about tequila shots. So that's where I'm going to say his go-to is tequila shots. And that's probably what gets him in trouble.
Okay. So I think if we went to beer, that would get you in trouble. Nick would be the equivalent of maybe a Steel Reserve.
Oh.
Or St. Ides.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That gives me a whole new perspective on Nick.
What's your perspective now?
Stay away.
Stay away.
Okay, Brian. Brian is probably a Shirley Temple. Trump doesn't drink alcohol, right?
No, wait, what'd you say?
Trump doesn't drink alcohol, right?
I
think anybody that voted for him, that's now my template for
what they like.
Yeah, for everything.
No, I've seen Brian have beer, and he also has a cheeky booth built in his house. Like him and his wife, I've seen they have like a little mini bar area and a tiki booth.
Ooh, okay.
So they are going against the grain of Trump, and they drink for sure.
So Brian wouldn't be a Mai Tai though?
No, I don't think he would be a Mai Tai. I think that he would be a margarita.
Okay, well then, then maybe he's the
Or
limerita.
pina colada.
Oh, okay. We'll do that.
Yeah,
Pina colada, and then what would his beer be?
You know the beer's better than I do.
I just want to think maybe like...
What's a conservative beer?
Maybe he's like Budweiser.
I was going to say Budweiser.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so...
Now, even though AJ, to my knowledge, does not drink, I'm going to go with what he probably used to drink, and I'm going to say Jack Daniels.
Okay, and if Jack Daniels was non-alcoholic, we'll just say water.
Yeah, water.
So AJ's drink of choice is water with lime?
Uh-huh.
And what would his beer version be?
Old Duels, because that's non-alcoholic. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of something else, but I guess that's what it would be. Mm-hmm. Or, root beer.
Oh, I like that. I like
that. I do too. Okay. But yeah, maybe for the AJ episode, it'll be drink root beer every time one of us says, well, whatever we decide for that episode.
I like that. Aw.
Yeah.
I apologize that part 2 of the cruise was a bit dark and edgy, but just like us, we are dark and edgy. And part 3 is going to be all of the happy endings and all of the fluffy things. So we'll come and end in a very nice, pretty bow. Okay? Listeners, just so you know.
Between the two of us, who do you think's the dark one and who do you think's the edgy one?
Between you and I?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, on the outside, you look like the dark and edgy one, but I think it's me. I'm the dark, edgy one.
No, we can only be one.
Me.
No, I mean, only one of us can be edgy, and only one of us can be dark. Which one's dark and which one's edgy? I think you might be the edgy one.
You think I'm the edgy one?
Well, I think edgy is...
I think
edgy is like synonymous with maybe like a kind of like a spontaneous type of
so
like
unstable,
off the rails maybe type thing.
So
where
I'm
dark
unstable.
is just kind of like a consistent like. I feel like I'm consistently how I am, where you can jump back and forth.
So again, I'm unstable
or
and
unpredictable.
Yeah.
Great. If all of the Backstreet Boys were single, which one do you think would be looking for a partner who is unstable and edgy?
God, I hope it's Nick.
Probably.
Fingers crossed.
Probably. Out of everything we talked about now, I think he sounds the grimmest.
The grimace.
Grimace, which is that purple thing from the McDonald's commercials, right? Maybe that's his new name, is Grimace. And then all the promo stuff, I'll just Photoshop that purple thing. And that's Nick.
There you go.
Okay, so... No, I'm done with that. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I'm trying to think if there's anything... So our next episode, we're going to touch on all of the great aspects of the Backstreet Boys cruise, because this one definitely didn't do it. This is definitely...
No, sir, it did not.
Yeah, this was definitely...
This would be what we would call the roses and thorns of this episode. This was the thorns of the cruise, okay? We talked about the thorns. The final and third part, we'll talk about the roses. Because you know what? This is why I wanted to talk about the bad stuff. And here's why. I made a conscious effort to do that for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 was that I feel like everybody only talks about the good things that happen, and that's false and bullshit. So I'm not doing that.
Right.
And then secondly, like, as much as I love the Backstreet Boys, what I appreciate about this podcast is that not everything is perfect, and neither are they, and neither are the experiences. And if we don't talk about some of those things, then it's really all just smoke and mirrors, and that's just not how I roll. So that's why I thought it was important to talk about some of the lows, on what was a great trip overall.
Nice. So, sorry, just to jump back to what you just said. You were talking about smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
How many smoke and mirrors were on the Backstreet Boys cruise that you went on?
None. There were none.
There were no mirrors?
There's no mirrors or smoke on the cruise. I mean, like...
So you weren't able to look at yourself at all, ever?
But, like, no, I'm talking about, like, there's mirrors in, like, the bathrooms, but not, like, outside of the bathrooms.
And nobody smoked?
I mean, you're talking about, like, smoking? Like, no, I'm sure people smoked. I don't recall a lot of that happening. Maybe I stayed away from that. I'm not a smoker, so I wasn't around any of the areas where there were smokers.
Nice.
I'm sure there was.
Sure. Well, yeah, catch us next week while we wrap up on the Backstreet Boys cruises with part 3. We have been usually dropping every episode on... Well, we've only done 1. At this point, it'll be 2 once you hear this. Unless we decide to put this one out before the first one, which sounds psychotic. But yeah, tune in next week when we put out the 3rd episode, or the 3rd part.
Episode 4.
Episode 4 of the Backstreet Boys Cruise, part 3.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. I don't know.
Sorry.
That's curse like a sailor. That's a phrase that I heard Kevin use once. Or maybe it was Brian. Probably Brian. I think swearing hurts his ears. Probably.